Thank you very much for being here today. I really enjoy doing these living histories because it's an opportunity for us to invite back someone who's done an oral history, a one-on-one interview with us in the past, but we get to do it in front of a great group like this, so you guys get to become part of that history we share. I want to encourage any of you in the audience today or watching this on YouTube, if you have stories, memories of President Kennedy or the 1960s, we would like to talk with you for our ongoing oral history project. We believe that every story is important, no matter where you were in the world at the time of the assassination. So if you would, look us up on our website, jfk.org, and you can schedule an interview or see me or one of our staff members after the program today. As Megan said, Elmer Boyd is a real key participant in the events of November 22nd, 1963. He was at many of the major locations, and you're in for a real treat as we cover a lot of ground today. Elmer, let's get started with this picture of you from 1963. This is what you looked like a few years ago. You haven't changed much in the ensuing years. Now, Elmer, you joined the Dallas Police Department in 1952.
Yes, sir. May the 19th, 1952.
And as I understand it, you were the very first individual to go from patrol in uniform directly into homicide and robbery. Is that right?
As far as I know, I was.
And homicide and robbery was it was the cream of the crop. It was the prestigious department, wasn't it?
Yes, I always wanted to be a homicide detective.
Yeah.
And I took the examination. I think I was number 6 on it, and I had a couple of friends that worked in homicide, and they put in a good word for me. And Captain Fritz waited until my time came up, and he took me.
And this is 1957.
57, October the 15th, 1957. Wow. And I had talked to somebody. They knew I was getting ready to make detective, and several officers came around, 2 or 3 of them. They came around and they said, "Oh, you don't want to work for Captain Fritz? Said he's tough." Said,
we're looking at a picture of Fritz here.
Yeah.
Now, Fritz was almost 70 by the time of the assassination. He had been the captain since the early 30s.
Yeah, 1931 or 2. There's a little controversial. But yes, but I wanted to be a homicide detective, and after I got over there, well, Captain Fritz, he talked to me, and he told me, what we're going to do. He said, well, the first thing he said, I'm the captain over here. Says Mary Ratner is the secretary. Says she does all the work just about. So anyway, she was a real good secretary. And after I got over there, I found out some of the people that was talking to me tell me that they had been trying for several months and years to get over there, and they didn't go. But anyway, he took me.
Fritz had a reputation as being a difficult boss?
Well, according to them, he wasn't a difficult boss. He expected you to work. Mm-hmm. But if you were caught up, I can honestly say that I never asked him for a day off that he didn't give it to you. He said, if you got it or not. Well, he knew if I had it or not, so I wasn't going to ask him unless I had it.
Now, I have heard that you and your partner Richard Sims were really 2 of Fritz's favorites.
Well, some of them thought we were, but
you wouldn't agree with that assessment?
I know. I made a good many trips with him. Robert conferences, out of town, other state. He knew we'd work. If he sent us on something, we'd work. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we may work 2 shifts before we get off. I may end up Louisiana somewhere, but we worked.
Let's talk for a moment about the sort of uniform you guys wore. You wore suits and ties, but all of you had the same colored, light-colored cowboy hats. Tell us about those.
Well, I don't know. When I went over there, most of them had them, so I got me one too. And so, in 1969, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, they decided we need to have our department evaluated for some sort. Well, they sent a sergeant with 10 years service from Chicago. He was working traffic to survey our bureau to see what we needed to do. Only thing he could find to criticize us for was because we were too unique. We all wore white hats. And that's the only thing he found was wrong with our bureau.
Too unique.
Too unique,
Because of those white hats. But you didn't stop wearing them.
No, I kept mine. I still have it.
Let's talk a little bit about the political atmosphere in Dallas in the early 1960s. I want to put up a picture here from November of 1960, the last days of the presidential election. And you are in this picture. We can actually see you almost in the dead center, a little to the left, next to that picture of Lyndon Johnson there. This is the Johnsons, Lyndon and Lady Bird Johnson, at the Adolphus Hotel.
Yes.
And tell us what's happening here.
Well, I was assigned to security to Lyndon Johnson, and we at that time, I'm telling you, the feeling was running real high against them at that time. In fact, some of them had those accused them of being Judas and all this. And we were coming down, we'd been up and we're coming down the stairs, and right at the foot of the stairs there, well, they just all came down with these signs, and they spit on Lady Bird Johnson, and I thought it was fixing to have a riot. That's what I thought, because but we finally got him, and I got him, and went across to the Baker Hotel and finally got out of it. But yeah.
Let's take a look at another picture there. You're in the dead center there. I mean, we can see next to you Lady Bird Johnson, and behind her Lyndon Johnson. I mean, it looks like a very frightening scene with all of these demonstrators.
Well, they were frightened, and I'll tell you, I didn't feel real good.
Mm-hmm.
But so I really thought we were going to have problems.
Now, before we get into the day of the assassination, as Megan mentioned earlier, you did see Kennedy once before. In October of 1961, he visited Baylor Hospital when Speaker of the House Sam Rayburn was there. Yeah. Here's a picture of that visit. You got to meet Kennedy. Tell us about that.
Well, we met him, and Sims and I, we escorted him over there, and the FBI agents were coming out. And they were up in front of him as we went in this building. There were some school kids out there also. Well, the Secret Service is in front of him, and he goes through this, it's a double door, as I recall. They go through there. Well, there's a door over to the right. Well, all at once, President Kennedy just stepped into that door, and I looked around, those Secret Service men were about to run over each other, getting back out the door to get to him. They looked behind me, he's gone. But he was always nice to me. After we finished, he shook our hand, told us how much he appreciated us coming out. And, he was just a real friendly person.
Did you have any concerns going into that visit in November of '63? Any concerns about his safety at all?
Well, originally, Captain Fritz Sims and I were supposed to be in the parade about the 4th or 5th car back. And the night before the president got here, all the FBI, Secret Service, and Captain Fritz and Lieutenant Baker went from our office and the sheriff's office. They had a meeting, and they decided that we wasn't going to be in that meeting. In the parade. Mm-hmm. But they wanted us to meet him at his plane and get him to his limousine or wherever he was going. Captain Fritz told me, he said, well, getting them through, if there's a crowd of people out there, you need uniform officers, because they'll pay more attention to uniform officers than will plainclothes. And he said, if we're not going to be in the parade, where if something should happen, that we can be of help, well, you can get him to the trademark, and we'll take care of him after he gets there. Well, so that's where I was.
At the trademark.
At the trademark. And but
now, was that unusual for plans to be changed like the night before a visit?
I don't know. I didn't have any idea, but Captain Fritz told them outside that night, he said, if we're not going to be back there where we can help, well, they kind of made light of that. Well, nothing's going to happen. And he said, well, I'm going to tell you, I don't believe you've been listening to the people in these grocery stores or in these barber shops, as the feeling is running pretty high against the president here. And if something should happen to him, it'd be the worst thing that ever happened in Dallas, Texas. And so he said, you get him the trademark, we'll take care of it.
This is what Captain Fritz told the Secret Service.
That's what he told them out there. And I never will forget when I got back, after I got back to the office the first time Forrest Sarles, he was more or less in charge of the Secret Service here at that time. He said, Captain Fritz, I just want to tell you that as long as I'm here and have anything to do with it, you and your men will never be cut out of another parade. Well, I didn't know what he was talking about because I didn't know all this other transpired.
Right.
Lieutenant Baker said, I know what he's talking about. He tried to tell him out there last night. And so they just kind of made light of it. Nothing's going to happen, but it did.
Wow. So pick up the story here on November 22nd at the Trade Mart. How did you learn that there had been a shooting in the motorcade?
Well, Captain Fritz Sims and I, we were assigned the head table and where he was going to make his speech from. And about 5 minutes before he was supposed to get there, Chief Stevenson, he was the assistant chief, he came over and told Captain Fritz, said, you and your men make your final inspection. The president's due here in 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. So we go over, and about the time we got started, but he came back and he says, we just got word that the president was involved in an accident down to Triple Underpass. Captain Fritz said, well, there's probably more to it than that. And he said, well, you take your man, you take Sims and Boyd, and go to Parkland. Said he's on his way to Parkland. See what you can find. Well, as we came out on Stemmons, the motorcade went north in front of us. We followed it in, and we got out there. They'd taken the president in. Sims went up, and there was Chief Curry was in the motorcade. Sims went up, and he came back, and he said, Chief Curry wanted to talk to Captain Fritz. So he said, you take your men and go back to the School Book Depository. So we think that's where the shots came from.
Now, before we leave Parkland, though, did you get to see the president at Parkland?
I didn't. I saw him take him out. I mean, I wasn't up close. I could just from a distance. I saw him taking him out.
When did you find out the extent of what had happened, that it was far more than just an accident?
Well, on the way, I think on the way to Parkland, we heard that he had been shot. Mm-hmm. Over the radio. I think we heard he'd been shot.
Okay. But there wasn't much for you to do at Parkland?
No, because all the motorcade and the escort they had, they were all there, and he wanted us to go back to the School Book Depository. Within 15 minutes, we had accounted for everyone there except Lee Harvey Oswald.
Well, take us into the building here. We're looking at the outside of the Texas School Book Depository here, but you went inside. You went up to the 7th floor where we are here today, more than 51 years later, and then you went down to 6. Tell us a little bit about looking through the building.
Well, we were up on the we'd stopped at 2 or 3 floors coming up, and his officers and us. We came on up to the 7th, and we got up here, and someone hollered up, said, we found some empty shell cases down on the 6th. So we go back down there, and Captain Fritz had Sims and I to stay there and at the scene there until our crime people got there. Was
anybody touching the scene or moving anything around?
No. We just left them lay like they were. And then Lieutenant Day and Studebaker came down. They were detectives. They worked crime scene search, and they took pictures of them. Then Sims and got them up. I think he took a pencil and put them in and put them in an envelope. And gave them to Lieutenant Day. And while we were over there, Luke Mooney and another deputy sheriff was up there, and Luke Mooney hollered across, said, Captain Fritz, I think we found a rifle over here. Mm-hmm. It's down between some boxes. And so I stayed there until Johnson and Montgomery came over, and he told us to come over. So we went over there.
Now, there are police people, and there are police officers, sheriff's department. There's also reporters by this time, right? Photographers?
I can't remember about the photographers. There's so much going on. I didn't know who was a photographer. I mean, who was a newsman. Well, I knew the officers that I saw. I knew they.
Would you characterize it, now you've been, at this point, a homicide detective for several years, would you say it was a more chaotic crime scene than normal?
Well, it was. Yeah, it was.
Okay, so you saw the rifle here. Did you get to examine the weapon at all?
No, I didn't have anything to do with the rifle.
Okay.
Lieutenant Day and Captain Fritz. Lieutenant Day took and dusted for fingerprints, and then he took a picture of it, and Captain Fritz ejected a shell out of it.
Mm-hmm. And then we have this picture of you, and you've got a shotgun in your hands, and you're leaving the building, and there's Captain Fritz there. Tell us about this. When did you leave the depository?
Oh, I think it was around, seemed like it was 12.
Well, the shooting was at 12:30.
Okay. It was, I would say it was about an hour later.
Okay. Now, by this time, had you gotten word that the president was dead?
Oh, yes, we got the word, and while we were there, we found out that J.D. Tippett had gotten shot over in Oak Cliff. Mm-hmm. And J.D. and I, we worked together for, a long time. We worked adjoining districts. When I'd be off, when one of our partners would be off, we would interact. We worked together for about.
Did the death of Tippett affect you even more than the death of President Kennedy?
Well, at that time, it probably did at that time because, our kids had grown up together, and we used to go picnicking out in Keys Park when they were little. And, of course, having worked with somebody like that for 4 or 5 years, but of course, naturally, the president, that bothered me too.
Sure. You went from here back to police headquarters, and you encountered this man right here, Lee Harvey Oswald. And here you are with Oswald in one of the most famous pictures taken after the assassination. Tell us about your first encounter with Oswald. What were your impressions of him?
Well, I'll tell you, he wasn't, in this picture here, I think that's when he told him, and he said, I hadn't shot that. Somebody asked him, and he shot how come and shoot the president? He said, I hadn't shot anybody, and that's when he told him. And he said, they're trying to make a patsy out of me.
Well, this is after the first interrogation with Oswald in Captain Fritz's office. We can see the doorway to homicide and robbery in the background there. Mm-hmm. What was that interrogation like? Was he friendly? Was he?
Oswald, he was pretty cool. He wasn't belligerent. You'd ask him a question, he'd answer you, but he may not give you the right answer. And he admitted about being where he went over in Russia, over in Minsk, Russia, and that's where he met Marina. He told about being in a fair play for Cuba down in New Orleans, passing out pamphlets. Yeah. And he would talk about anything except he said, I hadn't shot anybody.
He denied shooting both Officer Tippett and President Kennedy.
Yes, we had 2 real good witnesses saw him when he shot J.D. Mm-hmm. This lady was on the way to work, and she saw Tippett pulled up beside Oswald was walking down there on 10th and Patton, and he came over and leaned over to the rider's side of Tippett's car. And he said, I couldn't understand what they were talking about, but said she stopped and was looking at him. Mm-hmm. And said they talked for just a few seconds, and Tippett got out of his car. She said he got out and he was straight in his car, which that was a habit he had. As soon as he'd get out of that car, he would wear his hat on his head. And said when he did this, all it was, Oswald came out and shot him across the hood of that car, and hit him from here to here. Then after then he shot him again and took off about 10 steps out there. She said, I couldn't tell if he said, poor dumb cop or poor damn cop. He reloaded and took off running, and that's when he went to the Texas Theater.
Right. Now, Oswald at the theater, when he got captured, he was hit in the face. He tried to shoot a police officer, apparently, and he got hit in the face, and you asked him about that.
Yeah, I asked him, I said, what happened to your forehead up there, and he said, I struck an officer, and he struck me back, which he should have. And I thought that's unusual, you know.
Oswald said the officer should have hit him.
Yeah, he said I struck an officer, and he struck me back, which he should have.
What did Oswald tell you about his whereabouts at the time of the assassination? If he said he didn't shoot anybody, so where was he?
He admitted he had been down to the School Book Depository.
Yeah.
But he said he didn't shoot anybody.
Mm-hmm. He was just in the building? Okay. You were with him when he had the police lineups and also when he had the paraffin test to determine if he had fired a weapon that day. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, that was up in our office. They came up. Let me see, Johnny Hicks and Pete Barnes came up, and they fingerprinted him. And then they got him, and they took a paraffin test on the right side of his hand, and then they did this here. And I mean, he was cooperative. He didn't resist anything.
Right. We have several pictures of you at police headquarters. This is one that you hadn't seen before today. There you are standing up, and you're smiling about something there. But what I think is so interesting about this picture is...
I don't know what happened.
What I like about this picture is it was taken through the glass of the Homicide and Robbery Bureau doorway, because that's where that's where reporters and photographers weren't allowed inside. And you can see in the background there in the lieutenant's office that we've got some of the detectives, and they're holding something up to the light, but we don't know what that is.
That may be pictures. That may be pictures. That's Mary Routon, our secretary there. She's 96 years old now.
Oh, Mary, right there in front. And who are
the 97? Yeah.
Who are the detectives on the right there?
That's Lieutenant Bohart on the right there. And then the one back, the bareheaded one, that's Lieutenant Wales. All right, Ted Wales. Now, he passed away this past year.
In fact, it's worth noting that you and your colleague Jim Lavelle, you are the only two surviving homicide detectives from 1963.
Out of 20 of us, with only two left.
Oswald had several different interrogations that day, and as I understand it, he was pretty calm, except when an FBI agent named James Hosty came in. Tell us about that.
Well, the first time I saw James Hosty, I had been... They sent me down, I think, to bring a witness up, and he got on the elevator with us, and he said, who they have out there? And I said, Lee Harvey Oswald. He said, damn it, I knew he was here. And then later on, I think he kind of denied it. I know after the assassination, he got shipped off. I heard once in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, but I think it was St. Louis.
Hosty had known Oswald, had interviewed him after his defection to Russia.
Yeah, he came in, and he was going to interrogate him, and when he got in the office, he was out his badge like FBI officers do. He's up Special Agent Jim Hosty from the FBI, and he said, you don't have to tell me who you are. I said, you're the one that's been coming out there accosting my wife when I wasn't at home, and I don't appreciate it. And something else was said in a minute. He just jumped up and he took those handcuffs and come down on it, and that's the only time I saw him really get upset. He hit the desk with those handcuffs.
Wow, he got aggressive when he saw Hosty.
Yeah, he didn't like him.
Now, there's a bit of controversy because Captain Fritz did not record the interrogations, did not use a reel-to-reel or anything. What was standard police procedure in those days? Would you typically record interrogations?
I didn't know what a recorder was at that time. No, I didn't. We didn't have any. We never had any.
So it wasn't something unique in this case.
No, of course I'd make notes, but I didn't make notes there because I was sitting right in front of me, and while they were interrogating, I'm not going to be taking out my notebook.
Now, Elmer, you've been with a lot of murder suspects. What do you think about Oswald? Do you think, based on your personal observations of him that day, do you think he was capable of doing what he was accused of doing?
Yes, I do. I mean, I don't try to change anybody's opinion, but I have my own opinion, and there's no doubt in my mind he knew what he was doing.
Mm-hmm. You were there when Oswald was shown this famous photo, taken in the spring of 1963 in Oak Cliff. Oswald with the rifle, with the pistol on his hip, and he's got some communist propaganda. What did Oswald say when he was shown this picture?
Well, when I showed that picture, he said, I know all about that trick photography. That's my face up there, but that's not my body. He said, that's not my body. He said, that's my face, but that's not my body. He said, I know all about that trick photography.
And what did you think about that, him saying that?
I thought he crazy.
Okay, so you didn't believe that that was possible?
No, the fact is, I think the Marinas one told us where that was taken over on North Ellsbeth Street.
Now,
and I went over and I saw where it was taken.
Yeah. It's in fact, it still looks very much the same. You go over there today.
Yeah.
Now, it's worth noting that at this time, Dallas Police Headquarters was overrun with about between 100 and 200 members of the news media. What was that like?
Chaos.
Walking up and down those halls?
Yeah. Hey, they had cables strung out all the way from the elevator. You know, at that time, they had to put cables on those
the news cameras running on the truck.
Yeah, and they had you could hardly get down. I mean, the fact is, I was coming down, and they had. I think this one time, this guy, I think he was from France. He'd already come over here. The next day, they were here from Europe, and he had one on a tripod that come down and hit the top of my head with it. And of course, I know what happened, and I got a hold of him. I had him with one hospital with the other. But anyway, it was just chaotic out in that. You could hardly. We just had to shovel way through.
Yeah. Now, this picture around midnight on November 22nd, you went down to the basement assembly room with Oswald, and as you can see, all the reporters are there.
Mm-hmm.
And this was sort of an impromptu press showing of Oswald. Tell us about how did this come about?
Well, it was around midnight when Chief Curry came up and told Captain Fritz that I want y'all to take Oswald down in front of the show-up stage. So there's going to be some people down there, and we're going to show him. I don't know what his reason was. I have no idea. But I was just doing what we were told. And we got down there, and it was full. That room was full. And they told us, Captain Fritz said, I want all of my men down there. Mm-hmm. And so the ones that were there, they came down. And Chief Curry said, I don't want anybody to touch him. If they get close to him and try to get to him, you take him directly to jail. Just take him and put him in jail. Mm-hmm. So we stayed about 5 minutes, and of course they were, some of them asking him why he shot the president. But he hadn't shot anybody. And
we're going to take a look at a clip of that, actually. We can see you in it because you're always standing right next to Oswald, just like you are in this picture here. We'll take a little look at this, and I'll ask you a question about it.
Here he is, a slight fellow with some scratches and marks around his face. He's making...
Well, I was questioned by a judge. However, I protested at that time that I was not allowed legal representation. But during that very short and sweet hearing, I really don't know what the situation is about. Nobody has told me anything except that I'm accused of murdering a policeman. I know nothing more than that, and I do request someone to come forward to give me a legal assistance.
Did you kill the president?
No, I've not been charged with that. In fact, nobody has said that to me yet. The first thing I heard about it was when the newspaper reporters in the hall asked me that question.
You have been.
Nobody said what?
Sir?
You have been.
Nobody said what? Okay, we can't hear you back here. Okay.
What did you do in Russia?
A policeman hit me.
you hear what he's saying?
A policeman hit me.
Oh.
There you are again on the right-hand side. Now, Elmer, did you think this was a good idea to put Oswald in front of these people?
No, I didn't. Well, we couldn't figure why we were taking him down there. Mm-hmm. But, he told us to take him, we took him.
Was there a feeling that this was a little bit bigger than the Dallas Police Department, that this was a little bit more than you guys felt comfortable handling?
we could have handled it if the other agencies had left us alone. You know, it wasn't a federal crime at that time. It was a murder case, and if we could have handled it ourselves, we could have handled it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if Captain Fritz could have talked to him by himself, had a little time, I think we'd have found out a lot more than what we found out.
Without the Secret Service and the
Yes.
FBI being in there.
You know, you can interrogate somebody when there's 4 or 5 different agencies in there. And I think one of the worst things they ever did, the FBI, and they just took the body and took it off to Bethesda, Maryland, and this.
The president's body.
Yes, yeah, and the one that did the autopsy up there, they tell me that's the first time he'd ever did one for a police agency. And we had one of the best medical examiners here in Parkland, and they are in the country, because I've been all over with him, and I've watched him do autopsies. And there wouldn't have been near as much controversy over this autopsy if it had done it right here.
Yeah, that remains one of the most controversial aspects of the story.
I'm telling you.
I want to move on a little bit. We have a picture of you on Saturday. You've changed your tie, hopefully gotten a little bit of sleep, but you had quite the weekend, and this is a story I bet most people don't know. You caught some thieves the night of the assassination after all of this was over. Tell us about your late Friday night, early Saturday morning.
Well, I was on the way home. Ordinarily, I'd go out to Hampton Road. I lived out on Dutton Drive at that time. And I would go out to Hampton. I'd go down Hampton to Falls Drive, turn up, and go up and make a left and get on Dutton. Well, that night, as I passed the Lamar Smith Funeral Home on Jefferson, an ambulance came out right behind me, had a siren going. I get up on Tyler, and I make a left. I think it's Tyler or Pope, anyway, I think it's Tyler. Mm-hmm. And as I got down between there, and someone said, here come an old 55 model, rustic colored Chevrolet up, and he tried to run into me. And finally he gunned, there was 3 people in it. Well, he got around me, then all at once I'd either stop or I'm going to hit him. I stopped, and of course, here the driver, he gets back, and he has something back here behind him, and he gets out, and he said, get out of the car. And by that time, I had my window rolled down. I done got my pistol out in my lap. And I said, get out, come on out. I said, no, you get around here where I can see you. So he got maybe as far as here where they are at the front. When he did, I leveled my pistol. I said, whatever you have in your hand, you better drop it, because I'm fixing to put a bullet in you. He dropped it. He had a quart of beer. And I guess he thought he was going to work me over with that beer. And I told others to get out of the car. They got out. Well, I told them, lay down in the street. Well, the old big one, he laid down. Another got down, but one of them ran. Mm-hmm. But I got these 2 handcuffed together. I put them in my little 51 Ford and went back up there to 729 West Jefferson to Safeway, that phone booth, and I called, and they came and picked them up. Because we'd had a rash of those strong-arm robberies all over Oak Cliff and over in Lakewood. Well, one of them lived in Lakewood. But
it's amazing that you caught some robbers on the day of the assassination after all of this with Oswald.
Well, things just happen sometimes. Have to do what you have to do.
But the story doesn't end there, because then Saturday night, you got into a wreck.
I was going home like I always do. I got out in front of Sunset High School, and I noticed this car was parked. It was getting foggy, And by the time I got there, I almost got there. He made a left and caught me right quarter panel, and caved it in. So I had to call, get that taken care of. But I got on home. So
wow.
The next morning, my mother-in-law called, and you had been working with her, and invited us out for lunch. So we go out. They lived in Irving, right on Highway 103. And I was watching the television, and I looked out, and when Jack Ruby jumped out there and shot Oswald, I told my father-in-law, that looked like old Jack Ruby. And so...
Because you knew Ruby.
Yeah, I knew Ruby, yeah. I knew Ruby, and Sims knew him better than I did. We'd see him downtown all the time. Fact is, the night this thing happened, he called up there and he wanted to talk to one of us. So Sims was there. He said, Jack said, Mr. Sims, I'm down here at Saul's Turf Bar. I had to make up 30 sandwiches, and I want to bring them to y'all. I know y'all have been working hard. You need to eat. And he said, oh, Jack, so we've been swapping out going across the street. So he brought them down and gave them to the news people. And
how would you characterize Ruby? What kind of a man was he?
well, he's just a normal, I won't say how he was a nightclub operator.
Nightclub operator.
He wasn't a big gangster like I tried to make him out to be.
All right. Now I want to ask you about the shooting of Oswald, because in all of these pictures throughout Friday and Saturday, we see you and your partner Richard Sims as the two people escorting Oswald. But then on Sunday, it was Jim Lavelle and L.C. Graves. How did it happen that those two men were escorting Oswald that morning instead of you and Sims?
Well, the night before, the lieutenant asked us, we'd been working all day. He said, you want to go ahead and work on through tonight, or do you want to wait and come back for the transfer tomorrow? Well, we decided, we've been working this long, we'll just go ahead and work it on through, and then we'll take off tomorrow. Well, the next morning he came out there, and Lieutenant Baker said, Captain Fritz came in, and he said, get Sims and Boyd, let's get that Oswald down and get him out of here and get him to the county. And he said, Captain said, they went home. They worked till 3 this morning. They went home. He said, well, just get 2 of our detectives and let's get him out of here. We need to get rid of him. So that's the reason they were with him.
If you have questions for Mr. Boyd, if you'll pass those to the end of your rows, we'll collect them and go through a few of those at the end of the program. Now, Elmer, this is a very interesting thing. Jack Ruby asked to talk to Sims that night, and what did he say?
We got during the day. I think Ray Hall was talking, the FBI agent, FBI, and he wanted to talk to Sims, and he went up and got him, and he said, first thing he said, Mr. Sims, are y'all mad at me? And Milton says, no, Jack, we're not mad at you, but said what you did was a terrible thing. He said, we were here within 2 hours. We had the one that killed our president and the one that shot Officer Tippett, and said, you've really messed up, made us look bad.
Hey, this is a good one. How many times was Oswald interviewed while in custody? Do you remember how many separate interrogation sessions he had?
Oh, Lord, I don't know. I know I sat in on 75 or 80% of them. I know that, of course, I was in there when the hostage was trying to interrogate him. And Mr. Clements, he was an FBI agent. And Ray Hall, I think he interrogated him. Captain Fritz interrogated him. And Robert Nash, he was in there. He asked him a question. He was in he's with the U.S. Marshals, I believe. And
there were a lot of people.
Oh, there were a lot of people. Yeah, they would come in, and of course I sat there and listened. But it's hard to remember all those folks. Now, I have in my deposition I gave. I have most of them down.
Why have you been so reluctant over the years to talk about this?
Well, I just didn't want to talk. I don't know. I'm not a real good public speaker anyway. Well, I'm an old country boy. I was raised up down in Navarre County out there in Chambers Creek Bottom, and 7 miles out of town. So I would read about, we would read about in a paper about officers dying, and some of them, they told some stories that I know that wasn't true, because it couldn't have happened, but at the time they did, because I was there, and I know that they didn't, and so I won't call any names, but...
Do you think there was any connection between Ruby and Oswald?
No, I don't. I don't think so, because I got an old thing there that this old report that came in, I don't know if I told you about it. Okay. After the assassination, after the Warren Commission gave their report, they Lou Staples, that used to have an old late night showdown here in Carroll Daily somewhere, he's always getting in these controversial things. He called me and he said, I'd like to talk to you about a report you made back in October of 1963. And I said, well, I don't know. I'm not going to talk to you on the phone. The only way I'm going to talk to you if you'll come down to the public information office, the police department. I'll talk to you, but bring me a copy of the report. Well, he never did show up because I wasn't going to go down to his office anyway. And so about 4 or 5 months later, a reporter out of Houston called me. He said, I would like to talk to you about a report that you made back in October of 1963. And I said, well, I don't know what it is, but said, I won't talk to you. If you'll come up here and bring me a report down to the police department, I'll come down there and talk to you. So he came up from Houston. He brought this, I think it was on the middle of October, over to 621 North Marsalis. Mary Bledsoe had called in on some people that were that came out as disturbing the peace. That's what it had on the offense report. And said they were said she had rented that apartment to Lee Oswald, she said, but she found out that he gave another name of Alex Hydale. And there was a man there, J.R. Rubinstein, which is Jack Ruby's name. H.H. Grant, I believe, was the other one. Anyway, that got into disturbance and broke the furniture up. And I answered the call out there. And after Jack Rubinstein, he agreed to make restitution for the furniture, so there's no police action taken. So I went back and I looked, and of course I didn't answer disturbing the peace at that time anyway. And went back and it had some numbers up at the top, and we never had an offense report like that. It was one of our old blue sheets, but they had taken that and they said they had mailed it to this special committee that did. And they said, after the Warren Commissions concluded that Jack Ruby and Lee Harvey Oswald didn't know each other, here's proof that they did. And so I went by and I looked, and they had the E.L. Boyd, and I had my badge number on it. But I've never seen that thing before. And the offense number, we didn't have offense numbers like, but it was one of our old blue sheets that they'd make if it was in doubt, well, they would send it to the detectives, and then if it was good, we'd go ahead and make a regular offense. But so I tell you what, I don't know anything about this. Well, anyway, went on. Well, here after they appointed that committee, they sent 2 men from Washington down here to talk to me about that thing, and I told them I got home from work one day from Euless, and they're coming up the driveway out there. There was a great big guy, and he said, I guess you're wondering who we are. And I said, yes, I'm getting ready to find out. And so he started getting this identification out, and they had the same old report. And
but that didn't change your mind.
That didn't change my mind a bit, no. But he said they had him over there. He used to live on Marsalis.
Yeah. We're going to take one more question here. Could you talk a little bit about the criticism that the Dallas Police Department received after Oswald was shot and how that impacted you?
Well, you would get every now and then the Philadelphia Police Department called us and congratulated us how we handled it. But no, we had a lot of criticism. You'd go on vacation sometime, you'd run into something, but I never had any problems myself. I just like going one end out the other.
Looking back, of course, other than Oswald being shot by Jack Ruby, is there anything you would have done differently, handled differently that weekend?
Well, I wouldn't have taken him down to the basement.
No.
And I really think that we could have done some good if we'd been in the parade. Because after we got there, nobody, we accounted for everybody within 15 minutes. And I don't know anything.
All right. Well, it's been a real pleasure to hear you and hear some of these great stories today. If you would, please join me in thanking Elmer Boyd for being our guest today.